Gamers, thanks for tuning into Fire Chicken Review. Today we have some breaking news for obviously one of my favorite games out there. Any product for it, I probably have acquired it because I absolutely love it. And you may know from some of my other reviews and discussions, I've covered a lot of custom things for this game. And that is, of course, Keyforge, which you might be saying, hey, we haven't heard anything about Keyforge in some time because it's been on hiatus, as you may have known, by Asmodee Games. And it was kind of quietly going on for a while. And turns out Asmodee was kind enough to reach out to me as a content creator and to tell me the news of it being acquired by Ghost Galaxies. Shortly afterwards, it went out to all of the community at large. And when I say shortly afterwards, I mean within a minute. It felt like seconds. But I do appreciate Asmodee for reaching out to me. And I'm looking forward to potentially working with Ghost Galaxy as a content creator, or just helping out as a community leader at large. And I'll get right into that. Who is Ghost Galaxy? Well, the owner of Ghost Galaxy may be a familiar face for some of you. Have you ever played a game called Twilight Imperium? You know, a little bit long Galaxy game, and there's actually a new game coming out by Asmodee, well, FFG, I should say. That's a Rome, right? But that's a different subject. But the original creator of Twilight Imperium, and more importantly, the founding person, the founding member of Fantasy Flight Games, and was the CEO for quite some time of Fantasy Flight Games, and that was Christian T. Petersen. So he was with the company, founded it for 20 plus years, and then moved on and tried something a little bit different. And he has a few from their website, a few former FFG employees that are going to be very passionate to continue on with the Keyforge game. So bear with me. I'm going to be covering some of my notes. I have my phone down here hidden because I want to make sure I cover all the stuff. So the quick disclaimer out here, of course, is that this is news that just came out yesterday. So I wanted to cover it as quickly as possible for all of this. And so go over some of the highlights and some of the positive and concerns that the community may have. So what is going on? Well, basically you can refer to their webpage, and I'll just open it up really quickly here. But basically, since as of 2021, Asmodee had reached out to Ghost Galaxies and the former owner of FFG, as I said, Christian here, and said, hey, would you like to acquire Keyforge? And this is all on their site. And there was some back and forth because there's a lot of things that was going on. For those that aren't familiar, really quickly what happened with Keyforge, it was a game that was very interesting. Weren't sure if it was going to succeed. It did really well, did better than I even expected. I absolutely love it. My family plays it, so many of my friends, and I love that it's a very much a community-driven game. Very easy, low cost of entry, and just super fun. Don't have to worry about deck building. You just get your unique deck, right? So that sounded great. But the issues that came about was that COVID hit, and that caused all kinds of issues for everyone, as we know. And then on top of that, their actual program to be able to make new unique decks, because every deck in this game is unique, which is just mind-boggling when you think about it. But it's also one of the awesome things about the game. So with all this, a little bit of baggage, they said, hey, would you like to purchase it? And they weren't sure, and they just finalized the deal, which they mentioned on their site, and that was in early June, saying that now here's some content. Yes, Wind of Exchange, which for those who don't know, is a new Keyforge. It's going to be the new Keyforge set. Most likely it won't come out this year. I'm expecting either at earliest Christmas or early like first quarter of 2023 it will probably come out. Depends on a few things that we'll get into here. Don't mind me just looking, make sure that all my notes and timing that I don't go over for this, which will probably be a little bit long. So that's what they said, and they eventually acquired it, and so now there's a little bit of speculation. There's lots of interest, and so what do you do? So I'm part of that former community of Keyforge players that was super interested, but there was a huge lull in the game where it went on hiatus for so long, people weren't sure what was going to happen. So we're saying there's new blood that are bringing back Keyforge. What does this mean? and what does the community want to see. So some of the things that they highlight, and I'm just directing it straight off of their page, is that the software engine, like I was saying, the software engine, it's unsure. There's speculation of what happened. I won't get into that. It's unsure what happened to it, but the whole algorithm crash is what we know. And so they have to build it from the ground up. I know that there was a community member that I won't name here that showed like, hey, I've been able to like build an algorithm. So I'm not sure if they reached out to that or if it's just their own people. I'm very curious about the software engine, and they're saying that they're still in the process of building it. It's not complete is what they state themselves. So what does that mean in the aspect of when they do make unique decks? Are they going to try something new? Are they going to keep it like they had it before? So there's all kinds of little tidbits about that side of things. A little bit boring for some, but for those interested, if you want another video, comment below about like what the software was prior. There was interesting things such as a house couldn't have fewer than 3 creatures. There were certain cards that got connected. So it's this complicated process that they had to go through, and all kinds of other things. So they say that they're building on the software engine. So these are like some of the pillars that they are going to be talking about in the next coming weeks. The next thing they mention is the commercial release plan. And this is super vital because this is a critical item. They're talking about, given the long hiatus of the game, we need to make big decisions about how we intend to bring the game back to market and provide the software engine is ready, which they're saying it's basically not yet. Timing and composition of releases. This includes the timing of Wind of Exchange. So Wind of Exchange is coming out. To me, if they're able to, one of the best times, but it's also a challenging time, would be to get it out before Christmas so people are excited and they're bringing it into the holidays, and then we're going from there. Very ambitious. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'd say that's very unlikely. I think at earliest Q1, Q2 of 2023, and then the commercial release plan. So that could be anything from like how long between sets are we going to have? Is it going to be like what FFG did of about 5 to 6 months between sets, so 2 sets a year? Are they going to try to raise it, or are they going to try to decrease it for the time lengths? Because given the set, you don't want an attrition rate. And so that's a very hard thing to balance. Things like the old school items like you would have for Magic or other big card games, they have 3 sets a year potentially, or they'll have some sort of rotation. And I'll get back to rotation a little bit later on, because is that something they want to bring? FFG promised no rotation, but is Keyforge going to remain evergreen? So let me know in the comments. So this is a discussion. This whole video is about not just me. I would love to hear discussion, and I'll be posting this on the Facebook group as well for Keyforge, so we can have the discussion there if you don't want to comment on YouTube. So commercial release plan, my own thought is that any 2 sets, 3 sets a year, I think that's fine. I do like the model of 2 sets a year, and I think waiting, they should get the game out sooner than later, but of course not rushing it. So I think Q1 it's a good initiative, and I think that's super early given all the stuff. If they can get by Christmas, I think that's too early. No later than Q2, and you want to get the ball rolling. And I'll be talking a little about the old community a little bit later on as well. So another thing they want to focus on is organized play. So they mentioned that the ability to enjoy Keyforge in person and in context of a fun competitive scene will be critical priority for them. Many felt the former organized play program was confusing and spread across too many game variants. We will be looking to streamline and condense competitive Keyforge play. We will also be working on transitioning to a new version of the GEM software, which was like the digital software to organize your wins and loss at a tournament. I was the head judge at the Canadian Nationals, and it was a little bit interesting, and there's a lot of discussion on the side aspect of like the usefulness of GEM. It was very useful, but there were some hiccups and challenges that store owners and organizers and people that were running events were having challenges. So I'm curious to see how the pairing system and all of that works, but that's more of the geek side, so I won't get too much into it. But on the organized play side, there were some interesting tidbits there. So a fun competitive scene. Many felt that the former organized play program was confusing and spread across too many game variants. I would love to know what you think in the comments. So for me, I actually think I absolutely loved the various game variants. I played all of them, and I thought they were very interesting. I think what they're saying here is that starting off, they are most likely going to be looking at the two most common variants, and that's going to be playing as like just, hey, I have my Archon deck, I play with that, so you just have whatever deck from whatever set, and you're just playing with that, or the other one is sealed. So I think they're going to go with the standard status quo of having sealed decks, and I think they're going to go with bringing in your Archon decks. So things like 3-deck survival and stuff like that, or exchanging decks, so playing best of 3 where you play your deck, then you play your opponent's deck, and then if both players want the same deck, then you go back and you have a final match type of thing, so the best of 3 in that thing. So that might have been confusing in that aspect. There was also reversal decks where you brought in like your worst deck and you like give it to opponents and stuff like that. So there was all kinds of things like that, but I actually think that was quite a bit of fun. And there was just a bunch of different variants, and they're continuing to bring out new ones. Now, the issue that they bring up is a valid point, was that during the Vault Tours, so the competitive play scene, I felt like the Vault Tours were all kinds of different modes versus, hey, when you come to a Vault Tour, you're only going to play Sealed, or you're only going to play Archon, or you're only going to do this. Though I think what they need to do is talk to the community at large, because what do you think as a community? Let me know in the comments. Let me know on the Facebook page. Let us work together with Ghost Galaxy here and say, hey, yes, we do want to see a little bit more of a streamline, or actually we prefer the broadened aspect. And I think that it's hard to say either way, because the game only had a healthy competitive scene that lasted for a bit, but not long enough to actually get, in my view, and it's a biased view, enough data to say that, yeah, this works or not. But it doesn't matter. If you're telling me that Keyforge is coming back, and I'm sure you're the same, as long as you're being able to sling some decks and play some Keyforge and forge some keys, that's going to be the main thing. So that's the organized play aspect, and I'll get to some more organized play here in a bit. Localized versions. So this one is interesting. So they say under Asmodee, Keyforge was published in a great number of languages, which it was. It was published in a bunch of different languages. A little bit of a tidbit here was that I used to actually collect different language decks just as a fun thing. And they go on about, we'll be meeting with the distributors and language editions possible to gauge interest about the visibility for that. So they go on a bit. Basically, they're saying that they promise that it will be in the English language, because that is, their own language, and it's easiest for them to print. And they're not so sure, as a smaller company starting off, about getting all the languages that were out there already. In my view, they have to look at the numbers and they have to see what is justified. I know that, for example, if they can, the Spanish community is massive within Keyforge, and a lot of other communities that the foreign language, or other languages, I should say, would be great in. They should look at that and see what it is, because I know, again, just because I know a lot of the Spanish teams, that's what comes to the top of my head. I'm sure that one won't be an issue, but that's one of the ones that's a priority in my opinion. And I think getting in as many languages as possible is key, but I totally get that you're trying to cut back and make sure that you're just able to produce a well-produced game, and then worry about getting the localized versions a little bit later on, so that you get that start off. So let me know, especially if you're an international member, or if you would prefer in a different language, like what languages do you want to see the game in, and do you think it's justified to only start off with English? And they say themselves, they're working and they're talking to the people that were localizing it before, but I think that this is a numbers game and a money cost aspect, so they're trying to do that. And if the game does take off and blooms, most definitely they're going to start to introduce more languages, and I think that did originally happen with Keyforge. I think it started with like 3 or 4, and then it bloomed out. I can't remember the final number. I think it was like 6 or 7, but someone can correct me. I know the information is out there. So this one's also interesting. So deck registration and player accounts. So what this basically they go into is that they say, yeah, keep on registering your decks. interesting. Get to know about that. And that they hope to have all the software, and they're going to hope to be able to send you an email and transfer all over so that you'll be able to use their website. All your decks carry over, all your information carries over it as well. So that will be interesting. So they have like a 6-month fictitious deadline that they've set. But what I like about them saying, yeah, keep on registering their decks, that opens up a lot of possibilities and keeps doors open. And it potentially means that your previous sets, so Call of the Archon, Age of Ascension, Mass Mutation, Dark Tidings, and Worlds Collide, will be able to be used maybe in a digital aspect, maybe still in tournament scenes. It's hard to say what exactly this means. I'm sure, because it's all speculation at this point, I'm sure they'll talk more about it. And does this mean that your Amber shards will still carry over? And because I'll likely forget, I'll mention the Amber shards as an item now. So they're saying keep on registering your decks. So your decks are still registering as far as I've seen. And when I checked this morning, they're still giving you Amber. Will they be carrying over the Amber? And what will that mean for this? Will they continue the policy? Will there be like a prize wall? Will you be able to redeem it digitally? Like, will you be able to go to your game store? There's a lot of concerns for that, because like someone like myself, I have over 2,000 shards, and I want to get, I originally was going to get a Geek and Son Keyforge table. I ended up, and you can check out my other video, and I can link it if you want, to this Geek and Son Megan table. I ended up just getting this table because I wanted a board game table for a while, but I was saving up for that 4,000 shards, so I ended up having 2,000, and I said, hey, I'll get the chairs, but then the game went on hiatus. And there's a lot of people that don't want something that big, but they want to have the sleeves, they want to have the deck boxes, they want to have all this other stuff. So hopefully Amber shards, and this is a question I know the community is curious about. There was concerns that you could only go to the vault tours in the past to spend your Amber shards. Will they be scrapping it altogether? Will they be keeping it? Will there be digital aspects? These are questions hopefully they're able to address early, because I know, like myself, you probably have concerns about that. And for the deck registration process, finally, Keyforge will no longer hopefully say beta on it. That was a little thing that drive me mad, that you went to the online vault thing that had your decks registered and still said beta after like 2+ years of the game being out. So that's just a minor tidbit. Player communication. We will be working to provide players with frequent communication. Excellent. Related to our Keyforge plans, including previews of new products such as Wind of Exchange. I'm so happy that that set is coming out. It looks awesome. Check their site. I'll link it. And they're going to include game rules updates and other information. We hope to create a fax for the Keyforge transition in the days to come, because there's going to be lots of question. And then they conclude, to help with the above mentioned, if you have any questions, you can send it to them. So player communication. Speaking about communication, as many of you know, the FFG Asmodee communication started to become a little bit lackluster, and then it just became cold silent to even content creators or anyone. No one was saying anything about the game. So the people that were playing the game prior were saying, hey, do I want to still continue playing this? There seems to be zero communication. So please, Ghost Galaxy, continue to engage with the community. Come into our Facebook group, talk to community leaders, talk about all this, to all the different organizations, right? And actually see what the players want. That's why I mentioned stuff about like organized play doesn't need to be streamlined. I think it could use some streamline, but do people actually just want to see cookie cutter stuff, or do they like this stuff? So speaking about some items I also wanted to cover for, it's just some questions that I have and some questions that the community has, right? Is that, what are we going to see? What innovative things are we going to see? So I laid this all out, but are we going to see them working with like Acolyte, who write some of who have wrote, I should say, some of the Keyforge books? Will Genesis books for Keyforge still come out? Because that's an Asmodee, and what's their connection with Asmodee, right? So those are some of the smaller questions. But again, like other stuff like Game Genix, which is also, I believe, under the Asmodee product, will they still be releasing Keyforge stuff? Like what type of relationships? I think that's going to come later on. But more important item is stuff like Amber shards. How are Amber shards going to be redeemable? What is the competitive play scene going to look like? is there going to be cash prize tournaments? I think that was something. I have zero interest in cash tournaments. I will probably show up to the first one if one happens, but I know a huge portion of the community are interested, and even more so, there are a lot more people will be wanting to join a competitive game. If you're saying, hey, even if the cash prizes start off modest, you're saying, hey, now this is a real competitive game, there's money on the line, but still having that casual tournament. And speaking about casual tournaments, having the scene set aside, so maybe those game variants, still having casual play so that people that don't want to play very competitively can still be open, right? Because I would hate to see the community broken up and fractured, because right now it's a very unique community, like I said, just like the game. And speaking about unique, did they get the license for like the unique game, or did they just get the Keyforge IP? So will they be producing other games? Because when you go on to you look them up a little bit, they mentioned that they were thinking about making other games, like other generated games like Keyforge. They say on their site that Keyforge wasn't like the first step they wanted. They wanted to try something smaller. But what does that mean? Are they looking at doing other games? I would like to see that. And other items that they have, will they be able to make Keyforge board games as well? Like that, I think that was something, again, that's probably further down the range, but I'd like to see stuff like that as well. So as I look at my time, trying not to cut it too much into here, how are they also going to engage with store owners? Because store owners, a lot of them felt that they were burnt out with Asmodee, FFG, for Keyforge and other games, unfortunately, because the communication was a little bit lacking and there was struggles. So I can't speak on behalf of all store owners. I know that some have spoken to myself and said some of the challenges. They love the games. The community loves the games as well. So now how are they going to present this at stuff like Origins and whatnot? And speaking to store owners to say, hey, this is the reason why people should get back into Keyforge. Will Keyforge still also be at the same price range? Are they going to have to increase it? Because as we all know that prices have gone up. Hopefully, if they do increase the price, it's a modest amount and still remains cheap overall. Speaking about the evergreen aspect, and I'm just rhyming off a bunch of different things. Evergreen, I hope that the game does remain evergreen. I can understand that if they decide to go through rotation. And I could also understand if they said, hey, everything previously, we're going to put on, not a frozen aspect, but we're going to say that all that previous stuff, or at least coda, and I know there would be some people say, hey, leave my coda alone, but maybe they're going to start to rotate stuff out for that. Or how they do keep it evergreen, and this can be a discussion that we can talk about further at a later time, as well as that originally the intent was that decks were supposed to have power levels that eventually when you took your deck to a certain level of tournament, if you won or came in the top X, your deck would be power level A, B, C. So we'll say power level 4. That meant that if it was a level 4 deck, you can no longer bring it to like store tournaments, events, so the local area tournaments. And then if you won the Worlds event, you wouldn't be able to take it there, because then you've beaten all of that stuff. So maybe that's one way to phase it off. I'm not sure, so we're looking at that. So, and there's other things as well that come to mind. Thinking about questions, we also have how will rules, will there be a judge program? I think that would be something of interest, and rules updates, having it a little bit more frequently. We had issues in the past where it took sometimes months to get a simple rules question, or what seemed like a simple rules question, answered, so for verification. So hopefully they do keep that communication that they keep open. But yeah, so those are just some of the questions that come to mind. I think that there's a world of possibilities, just like Keyforge itself. I love that they got a quote from Richard Garfield saying that he's super excited that the game is going back to the first person he pitched it to. Again, and that first person was the original owner of FFG, Christian T. Petersen. So that's fantastic. So we're going full circle. And from my own background as a previous FFG fan person, I'm very excited because what I call the golden years of FFG, the previous owner and CEO was in FFG and was the head of it when it was in that great time. So I really enjoy the fact that now we have a smaller company starting off. I am a bit concerned, why did Asmodee sell it to them instead of keeping it if they think the product is good? But I'm happy that it's going to more of a smaller company, and they're talking about this as one of their first games that they're putting out. So you best believe that if they spent some money on this game, they're going to want to make sure that it's going on and it's being produced. So that's everything for now. I hope we talk more and communicate about it in the comments. So let me know what you think and what you think of Ghost Galaxy acquiring Keyforge.